Remember searching SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm Fahima Mohammed, again your host for tonight, and I'm really happy that you're tuning in from wherever you are watching around the globe or on Sky Channel 752, whether it's also streaming from Facebook or Twitter. A very warm welcome from all of us here on British Muslim TV as well. I would love to continue with the episodes that we are constantly having each week, which is raising some amazing problems. And we are actually raising lots of challenges and we're raising lots of issues. And you can most certainly be involved in the conversation tonight. And you can do so by calling directly to the studio and speaking to myself or my guest. And that number is 01924231083. Standard network rates do apply, so please do ask the bill payer's permission. You can also anonymously WhatsApp us, and that you could do on the number on the bottom of your screen, which also will remain for the rest of the show, and that is 07585835150. I'd love to now introduce my guest for tonight, who is Brother Omar Rashed. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Omar. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing very well, Sister Fahima. How are you?
I am really excited for your episode tonight. It's an absolute pleasure. Tell me, where are you streaming from today as well?
So I'm streaming from Boston, Massachusetts, US of A.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I've been looking forward to this episode for a while. We've been speaking, and it's a really interesting topic. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the hidden benefits of marriage. We talk a lot about the general reasons why we get married, but I want you tonight to share with us, what is it that we usually concentrate and focus on firstly, and what should we really focus on when it comes to those hidden treasures? But before we go into that, could you please quickly tell me a little bit about yourself? I know you've gone through a journey as well, personally, and why it's kind of led you to where you are now and how you help others through their challenges. So tell me a little bit about yourself, please, first.
Inshallah, that sounds great. So I'd like to begin by saying my name is Omar Rashed, and I am an author and a poet, and as well as helping people to reach the peace in their life as a peaceful heart's guide. And my story starts like most. I went to undergraduate and graduate. I got my bachelor's and master's in social work. I've always been dedicated to mental health and to helping families and communities and actually fighting against homelessness and poverty and these other kinds of things, trying to do good in the world, inshallah. At the same time, I've also been a deep student of Islamic knowledge. So I've studied the different madhahib, the different schools of thought, the Quran, Sunnah, everything that goes along with it, the hadith literature, history, and everything that goes along with it. And of course, the Quran, which you can't do anything without the Quran, right? But my story has a unique twist that in addition to being a social worker and a student of Islamic knowledge, I've also dealt with my own story and history of mental health challenges, facing depression, ADHD, bipolar, and other kinds of illnesses throughout my life. And it is in the process of finding peace using Islamic resources, using my social work knowledge, and also ensuring that I practice the best of my personal journey and ways that I have found to help myself, and I've become on a quest to help other Muslims who are struggling, because honestly, a lot of the professionals cannot relate to us if they're not culturally sensitive. They don't understand what we're dealing with. They don't know what the evil eye is. They don't know a lot of the cultural and religious implications of these things. And it's hard if you don't understand the values and the principles of a Muslim to understand some of the struggles of a Muslim. If you're not able to get married, a lot of non-Muslims may say, oh, well, that's a great thing. You get to be a bachelor. You get to go drink. And it's like, no, we don't. That's a different lifestyle for us. So I make sure that I give care for not only mental health, but other avenues that are culturally sensitive and infused with the Islamic spirit. Because at the end of the day, all healing comes from al-shifa, from al-Shafi, the healer, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you have to incorporate Islamic approaches into our interactions. Now, I did also want to mention one other thing, that at my current moment, I am, alhamdulillah, specializing on helping Muslims who have struggled with divorce with kids to recover and to find that balance. Because I think that in this community, it is so very difficult to find support. As a divorced Muslim myself, I understand, and I have 2 children who live with me. And so it's something that I believe we need a special community to take care of, who understand these issues and who can help one another in the process. So those are some of the things that I wanted to share about myself today, inshallah.
Lovely. I loved everything that you said. It's so interesting. And mashallah, you're very, very varied with your knowledge and your experience. And that's why we have you tonight. And it's an absolute pleasure to have your expertise and also for you to share your personal struggles and your challenges with us today, especially on the show where we do have a lot of people may, give advice and tips, but you actually having that experience is an added bonus to share that with us. And I'm really happy that you feel safe and comfortable to do so. So thank you so much. As we were speaking before, with regards to the usual things that people normally discuss and think about when they actually are, going on that journey to finding that special partner for marriage, we usually say, because it's half our deen, and this is something that, there's a natural need for connection and things like that. So we've heard that before. We know, a lot of the basics and surface things, and also the important rules and the guidelines. So could you elaborate as to what is the forefront of those hidden sort of benefits that you would like to share tonight? And we can start off by giving some of the tips that you and I spoke about before.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So what I'd like to share is that, before I get started with everything that you've just asked, alhamdulillah, I want to start with just a starting point, which is that we as Muslims believe at the center of our ideology and our religion and our deen is that it is our responsibility to get to know Allah and worship Him as He deserves to be worshipped. It is our responsibility to get to know ourselves and do jihad an-nafs, right? The struggle of the soul, understanding who we are and what is our place in this vast universe, and understanding other people and loving them the best way that they are able to be loved. And so we have, and I'll start this as an introductory point, we have what is called a love drum, which is a vast tank. And you can imagine it's 500 gallons, and I believe you guys are in metric, so I guess that the equivalent would be 1,000 kilograms. I don't know.
Don't worry about the conversion. It's fine. We can figure it out.
500-gallon drum, a humongous drum of water. And every one of us has that inside of us, right? So we have a capacity to give and receive love. And if our tank is small, we have a smaller ability to give and receive love. We also have a smaller ability to understand Allah and to understand ourselves and the people around us. But if we have a vast and a bigger drum of this love tank, as we'll call it, then we have the ability to give more love, receive more love, understand the people around us better, understand ourselves better, and deeply connect with Allah at a deeper level. So I have to start there. This concept of marriage, the hidden gem of marriage, is that it is a very unique opportunity to truly get to know someone at the deepest level in order to expand our love tank. Because when we're not in a married relationship, when we're not in a committed relationship, when we have friends and we have coworkers and we have people, cousins, nieces, nephews, siblings, those are all important relationships, and they all have an ability to give and receive love. But of course, the marital relationship is a unique relationship that allows us to understand another human being in ways that we cannot understand others. Now, I personally have a very lovely stepfather and mentor and guide who has helped me in many ways. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed by Allah with many good friends and people like yourself, colleagues and other professionals that I have established relationships with. And it's wonderful that we get to know each other. But there are certain things that no one will understand about you except for your spouse. Not even your children. One day, inshallah, if we have children, they have some things that they know about us too. But the marital relationship is a relationship like no other, in its depth of the ability to give us an opportunity to get to know each other and everything about each other, and more importantly, to help each other grow. So part of this relationship, part of the blessing of marriage, is that you have a partner that if you are aligned side by side on this path of jihad and nafs, this path of spiritual development, enlightenment in modern day parlance, if you are on the spiritual journey of discovery, then you are able to have a partner walking with you. And that spouse is a mirror for you. He or she will help you see that which you cannot see about yourself and can reflect back to you, hey, did you know that this is here? Maybe we can work on this together, and we will love each other through the growth process to encourage one another on the path. This is the hidden gem of marriage that most people do not speak about, but it is so essential. And alhamdulillah, every kind of relationship that we have has some form of this. But like I mentioned, marriage is unique. There are certain levels of intimacy that no one else on earth will know from you or with you, except for your spouse. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. But what I'm hearing is that we need to have a really high level of consciousness, God consciousness. So the thing is, when you're speaking like having that real sort of like, special connection with the spouse means that you have to connect first with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is absolutely amazing. But when you're actually talking about sometimes, regardless of age, but a lot of youngsters that are thinking of marriage, they are struggling with their faith. They do have a different, set of level when it comes to understanding their faith. So would you advise that maybe they need to work on themselves a little bit longer, or be a little bit, more into their religion and deen first? I mean, these are some of the questions that I would love for you to answer, but we are coming towards a break shortly. However, this is food for thought for everybody when we're listening to a conversation like this, because we do bring this up a lot about knowing yourself and having that self-development and feeling in a particular way where you have love for yourself, contentment for yourself, happiness for yourself. But it only has a certain amount of, being that way when you have experience in life. So we will come back after a short break to discuss this with Brother Omar. And if you have any questions, please do call in and we will put that forward. Inshallah, we look forward to seeing you shortly, and please stay tuned. And we will definitely see you after the break with more questions for Brother Omar. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. Already we have had so much insights from Brother Omar, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say next. I did pose a question to you, brother, before the show with regards to different levels of faith, especially when you're young and you're still learning and trying to develop. So it is lovely what you've mentioned, but does that not hold us back when we're trying to actually still grow within ourselves? How would you see that, with a person that's struggling with Iman or has a different faith, or, some people, they lose it sometimes, or they are weak in that Iman? How would you advise them then when they are looking for marriage and they potentially are not on that mindset or on that level?
Absolutely. And I think that there are many people who put limitations on themselves and on their abilities, and they think, oh, well, I'm just not there yet. I'm not as far as I'd like to be. So I'm a published author and a poet. And once people would say, Omar, I'm a poet and I love my poetry, but I'm not ready to publish yet. The only thing that stops us from taking action is our own inhibitions and our own doubts. If you want to get closer to Allah, pick up the Quran in English, the translation of it first. Read through the Quran. Start with wherever you are. Start with whatever verses you know. Start the journey. And we have all heard the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You don't have to wait until some out there destination in order to be able to get closer to Allah. We can start wherever we are. Whether you've memorized nothing or everything, it doesn't matter what your level is. You can begin with what you have. Take the intention and ask Allah. In fact, my journey started on sharing a small tangent, but when I was young, I had dealt with some serious difficulties in my life. My parents had a nasty divorce. There were a lot of problems in my upbringing. And I told Allah, I said, oh Allah, if you're out there, if you show me a way that will get me out of this mess, I promise you I will follow it. And Allah accepted my offer, and I kept my word. He showed me a better way to live, and I promised him I would follow it. And by the grace of Allah and by his grace, I have been able to follow that path. All it takes is an intention and an action. You don't have to figure out every step of the way. You have to figure out your first step and take it, inshallah. And on this note, there was a special story that I'd heard. Imagine if you're, and I don't know exactly the geography of London and the UK, but in the United States, if you can imagine, California is on the very west coast of the United States and New York is on the very east coast. And it's maybe 2,000 miles from one coast to the other. If you could imagine driving in the pitch black night, all night, with only the headlights on the car, those headlights only allow you to see 20 feet ahead of you. You can't see the rest of the journey. You have no idea the directions. But if you start in California and you drive to New York in the pitch black of night, you will be able to get safely to your destination just by following the first 20 feet of guidance ahead of you. Follow the path as it unfolds in front of you, and you will reach your destination safely. You don't need to know how to get there now. You need to figure that out as you live your life, as you're on your path. Does that make sense? So no matter where you are starting in your faith story, this knowledge of ourself starts with exploration, starts with knowing ourselves. And yes, you must know yourself properly in order to get into a marital relationship. But you don't have to know everything. You have to begin the journey. You have to start on the path. And as you get to know who you are, and as you get to know who Allah is, you find a partner who is willing and able to work with you on that path and join and grow together. You don't have to wait until you've figured everything out. There are many people who say, oh, well, I have to wait until I'm 30, until I get my PhD and my this and my that in order to do everything that No, start with where you are. You don't have to figure everything out. You only have to take life one step, one day at a time, inshallah.
Thank you. That is really interesting. And I love your take on that. And it's true, because we do put the pressure on ourselves and we give ourselves a lot of excuses not to make that and take that step and make the effort to actually improving. And I know that you've also mentioned before in our conversations during the break, especially, is you actually saying that we have to grow, obviously, with the other person. But how is it that you're going to find somebody that kind of matches you? Or does it matter if they do? If they don't, do they have the same mindset? How would you try and acknowledge and see if that person has that same potential? Like you said, okay, we don't have to all be there. We don't have to know it all. We don't have to be completely experienced and developed. But then how would you advise a young Muslim single who is actually looking for marriage, and maybe they've got it sort of understanding of, okay, we take the step and we move forward. Now, how would they gauge that they're actually going to meet that partner who matches them in the same way? Because I think that's where the problem lies. There's either one, for example, that's more religious than the other, or the one that's wanting to put the effort more than the other. How would you recognize that so that you can move forward with that sort of like potential of a good marriage?
So I'd like to share with you an advice that my stepfather and mentor gave me once long before I got married. And unfortunately, I didn't heed that piece of advice. And I think a little bit later, I'll tell you about some of the consequences of not finding that appropriate partner. But his advice to me was, Omar, marry someone who, if they changed absolutely nothing about themselves, you would be happy with them. You would accept them as they are and love them for who they are. A lot of us say, oh, well, I like this guy, but he just needs to do this and change this and do that. Or I like this girl, I just want her to learn how to. No. If you cannot accept someone who they are as they are, right now, today, based on the evidence of what you see. There was a hadith in which Imam Ali was asked, what is the distance between truth and falsehood? And he said 4 fingers. And the man was confused and he went like this. What you see is truth. What you hear is falsehood. Okay? So if you see someone's behaviors and you see that they're committed on this path like you are, maybe not the same, of course, in every couple, there's some who are more and some who are less, some who are more passionate about things. But if there is a commitment to growth, you will see it in their actions. When, for example, in the courting process, you say, hey, why don't we try to read one verse of the Quran in English together and talk about it? And the first day they do it, the second day they do it, then the third through the 50th, they don't. Don't ignore the sign. Don't make excuses. Acknowledge what your eyes see. The eye is truth. What you see is true. What you hear may not be. So believe what your eyes see in the behavior, in the established patterns. This is something that comes up with abusive relationships. They say, oh, but he promised me or she promised me she would stop. Don't listen to the words. Follow the pattern of what you see in the relationship. Very important. These are very basic things, but they're things that we as Muslims are not often taught, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I love that you actually said that, because that actually was making me think as you speak with regards to the knowledge that you've actually taken upon yourself. And a lot of us are not given that kind of, information, even from our parents, even if we go to the mosques and the centers as children. And I think we are lacking that in our Muslim community, because again, we just follow the tradition and the culture, which does not really have the Islamic real teachings. Because what you're saying right now is that we need to not just educate ourselves in the secular education, but the Islamic education, and not just, by, reciting Quran, but understanding its real truth and meaning, which I think even from a young age, it can be done, but we're not doing it. And that's really, really vital what you've said. And I love that. And I think that's where we have our problems and our issues a lot in relationships. Islam is there to make sure that we have that household that is strong, and that unit means something, which is breaking down in the Western world and even in the other sort of like Eastern world, right? Yes. Exactly. So, and that is the strength, and that's the power of community, is having the strong household that is going to be, with the mom and the dad and the family, the children, and to keep it and that bond. And that's breaking, unfortunately. And what you've just highlighted is so, so important about us learning our faith properly. And I hope that whoever's watching understands this, because this is what your key is. It's not just, looking outside and, looking to see who is it that I'm going to find, and am I going to meet them, or are they going to meet me and find me? It's meeting ourselves and knowing ourselves through Allah's eyes. I love that, what you've said. Before we go to the break, could you just quickly maybe answer one more question? And that is, do you think it's different for men and women when it comes to us learning about ourselves and even having that expectation for the other?
To be honest with you, I haven't thought about that particular question in depth, but I would imagine that, well, I guess my basic answer would be, at the level of our soul, we are all one, male or female. Allah, we are all souls. Our souls animate a body that has a gender, but our soul does not have a gender, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. No, it absolutely does. I really do appreciate all your information and insights right now. And it's so much education for all of us. And this is what it's all about. The show's here to help us to actually follow that journey and that path. And again, I want to reiterate, if anybody does have any questions for Brother Omar tonight, this is your opportunity for tonight alone to be here and, join us in this amazing episode with yourself, and all the way streaming from the United States. I really do appreciate it. And if you have any messages or you want to call in, please do so. The lines are open throughout the episode of the show tonight. And we have, personally, I have so much questions for you. But before we do, we are going to go into a break shortly. I just want to give you also some food for thought that when we are discussing these issues, and you have shared that you've had some mental health issues in the past and struggles, you've had issues with your parents, many people might be triggered. And, if you are triggered by this, we do have a support system here on British Muslim TV that you can connect with. And you can do so by connecting with britishmuslim.tv/support. And with that, I also want to ask you, Brother Omar, just under a minute, if you can answer me quickly before we go to the break, is, how is it that you can actually move forward from having the disruption in life and the struggles and still keep your faith strong and have that hope in another marriage?
I think that the answer to that question to me is that you have to begin with the foundational assumption, the belief at the core of your heart. Every challenge Allah is giving me in my life is His attempt to bring me back to Him, to guide Him, to obey Him, to love Him, to know Him, and to get closer to Him. None of these challenges, none of this pain, none of this suffering is...
I love what you've said. Inshallah, we will be back to answer that even further after the break. Stay tuned and we'll see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. It is going by too quickly for my liking. Brother Omar, you are sharing so much tonight and dropping so much information. I'm absolutely excited that you're here with us today. We do have a couple of messages I just want to read out before I start with the other questions that I have for you. But somebody has messaged us on WhatsApp anonymously saying Assalamu alaikum to Fahima and Brother Omar. Thank you so much for British Muslim TV for having Omar with us tonight, and also reminding us that marriage is to have a life partner, inshallah. It's important to have a good, healthy marriage and someone who can help and support you Islamically. His questions are, how would someone find, a partner when, in a dating app, for example? And the other question is how to avoid bad habits in life, like smoking and the social aspects. What's your thoughts on that, Brother Omar?
Okay, so for the first question about how do you do this in a dating app, so I've been on those apps, and my best suggestion is to be thoughtful about reading the words that the person writes about themselves, and be thoughtful about the words that you write about yourself. You can tell a whole lot about someone by how they express themselves, what they're thinking about, what is important to them, and what is not important to them. The things that are obviously not present is a statement just as much as what is said. So that would be my advice to that. As to how to avoid bad habits and those kinds of things, I think the best thing to do, and it sounds so naive and it sounds so cliche, ask Allah for help, promise Him you'll do your best, and follow through on your word. If you can make a sincere intention and you ask Allah for help and you do what He inspires you to do, because Allah communicates with all of us. None of us are prophets, none of us have wahi, revelation, but all of us have ilham, which is inspiration. Allah guides us in our lives if we're listening and if we're asking and if we're talking. Fahima and I are having this beautiful conversation. We're having this beautiful communication from one side of the ocean to the other. We can have that same quality of conversation with our Lord. When we speak and we ask, we listen to the answer. And the answer comes in the feelings of our heart when we listen and slow down. But we have to have the conversation. You can't ask your uncle for money, for a favor, for this, if you've never talked to them for the past 20 years. Talk to your Lord. Ask him. Promise him you will fulfill your vow, and he will bless you. That's the best of my advice from this, in this short period, of course.
Beautiful. I love that. I mean, a lot of us make dua, but we don't actually, and there are beautiful duas out there in order to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even if you have those conversations between you and him, you can build that bond and that connection for you to get closer. And that's what it's about. And I love that you've shared that with us tonight. And thank you so much for the message as well from whoever sent that in. The other thing, Brother Omar, when it comes to the actual path of knowing those hidden sort of like benefits, we had another message asking, what are the top 3 hidden benefits for marriage?
Okay, so the first one I'll begin with is the ability to know someone very deeply, to know yourself and to know someone else. Like I mentioned before, this
before we actually continue, that's an amazing question. Can we basically get to a caller first? We have a caller online. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on British Muslim TV. What would you like to say?
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to say it's been amazing listening to Omar. He's had a lot of great points about religion and faith and stuff like that. But I just wanted to say, as human beings, sometimes people don't always find a partner, and sometimes people don't get children. So, and I know it's a sin to be with someone if you're not married, so I'm not going to say my sins out here. But I'm just saying, what if a person just wants to be a traveller and just get on with life and see where it goes, or be committed to God, or be like a nun, married to God, not in that kind of way, but just, but for me, if I was going to get another relationship in my life, I think I would want someone in that kind of level of Islam, where they're like a sheikh or something. And then maybe if I tried for children, even my children can be sheikhs as well. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much. I love what you've just said that and shared. What's your thoughts on that, Brother Omar?
So my first thought is that, alhamdulillah, Islam is balanced and flexible. If you want to be a person who marries and travels often, that is acceptable within the role of Islam. Often husbands travel for work. In the olden days, they traveled in caravans and they, did it that way. Now, these days, people catch flights and travel internationally for work. Men can do that. Women can do that if there's an agreement between the husband and the wife. If that's your wish and you find someone who's acceptable of that idea, then go with it. If you would prefer to marry a sheikh, I mean, again, may Allah bless you, whatever it is that works. But I don't think that we have to think of marriage as a limiting or as a box. And I think actually, going back to the earlier question that you asked, Fahima, about is there a difference between men and women? I think there actually is in the lived experience of trying to get to know yourself, because unfortunately, there are many double standards in our modern day society. There are certain things that are acceptable for men to do and that are generally culturally unacceptable for women to do. However, my biggest thing that I always say is on the day of judgment, when I'm in my grave, I'm alone. My mother will not be there. My father will not be there. My siblings, my community, the sheikh will not be there defending me. I will be alone. And therefore, I'm not going to ask, does the community allow this? I'm going to ask, does Allah allow this? We Muslims are supposed to live our life according to the opinions and the judgments of Allah. There's a verse in the Quran, and I don't have the exact verse, but it says, the believers are those that when Allah and His Messenger have decided a matter, they do not allow themselves any option. And the flip side, the disbelievers, or actually it says, those who follow us, who judge by a standard other than that which Allah and His Messenger have revealed, those are they that are the unbelievers. Now, if you follow your culture and you ignore Allah, who is your Lord? Your culture or your peers or Allah? You tell me. Allah has made this life easy. Allah has made marriage easy. Allah has made the deen easy. He has not made it difficult for us. We make it difficult for ourselves trying to follow the Joneses, is the American expression. I don't know if there's a London equivalent. Yes. Following the Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses. I have no business living my life according to what my fellow community members have to do. It's not my business. I'm not going to be judged for them and they're not going to be judged for me. I end up in my grave alone. Why would I care? So
no,
that's
I love
my
that.
advice.
No, I love that. I think it's really important that we do, hold ourselves really strong as individuals with our own values and beliefs. As much as it's very difficult when we are living in the West, but I find that it actually sets you apart to be that individual who is strong, who is actually going to take upon that religion because they actually want to, they choose to, and they will be following the guidelines, regardless of what is around them to tempt them or what is not the norm. As you said, when people are saying that we're going to follow the Joneses, yes, we do have that saying over here as well in the UK. So I completely understand what you're saying. And again, you've given us some amazing, answers and tips. But I want to go back to the question that we had before with regards to the top benefits of marriage, the hidden ones that,
Right.
we don't usually mention, we don't really think about, that maybe might give someone some food for thought in order to take those steps in the right sort of, direction. What would be your top three?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the first, which is there is a hadith Qudsi, which is, it's not Quran, but it's Allah speaking directly to the Prophet of Islam. And it says, I was a hidden treasure that desired to be known. So I created a creation that could know me. We humans have the ability to know Allah. And being known is one of the highest values for Allah. And Allah has given humanity a similar desire, a similar feeling in our heart that we desire. It's a need to be known by another person deeply. So marriage is an opportunity to fulfill that requirement, to be truly known for who we are. Because Allah created all of us so that we could know Him, and He created partners so that we can know each other at a deeper level. So that's the first hidden benefit. Second is spiritual evolution and growth and development, and jihad and nafs, and the spiritual development and enlightenment. We are able to do this better with a partner helping us on the path. Third, there is a hidden gem of an opportunity to truly understand the blessing of Allah in the opposite gender. Men do not on their own understand women very well, and women on their own do not understand men very well. But men who learn to understand women and women who learn to understand men can understand a level of Allah's beauty of creation and the genius of His system and the genius of this whole universe that you cannot have until you reach that level of spiritual understanding, of the understanding of the uniqueness and the beauty of Allah's creation. How can you take advantage and be thankful for Allah's creation when you don't even know it? This opportunity of marriage helps us to understand a beautiful blessing that Allah has given us.
That is amazing. I love that. Again, you have definitely highlighted some amazing gems that have been hidden with regards to the real essence of marriage. And as we were speaking, you even realized that there is a difference that, we have with the genders, and there are definitely certain guidelines. And also we do take things differently, emotionally, as well as logically. And that is, definitely in science and biology regardless, but it doesn't mean that the potential's not there. The thing is, when you talk about knowing yourself and the other deeply, what does that actually mean? Could you expand on that a little bit more for us?
I think the best thing to say about this is that to know someone else, to understand who they are, doesn't mean to know their name or their job title or their favorite color, for example. It means to know what is it that makes this human being special and unique, and what are those beautiful reflections of the names of Allah in that person. For example, in my spouse, I see Al-Jabbar, or I see Al-Wadud, the most loving, or I see Al-Rahman, the most merciful, or I see Al-Kareem, the most generous. You're looking for these unique things in this person that make them who they are, that you can appreciate about their character and be thankful for. And honestly, gratitude is a very big portion of the benefit of marriage, being grateful for your partner and being grateful that you are a partner able to help someone else. Those are all great blessings if we see them as such.
That is amazing. I love it. I love everything that you've said so far. And we are going to continue after the break. And I hope to hear some more information that Brother Omar is going to share with us Inshallah, we will see you shortly. Please stay exactly where you are, and we'll catch you at the other end of the show. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. Again, I want to thank you all for streaming and watching, tuning and supporting us. I love all the messages. I love all the contact that you're making via Facebook and WhatsApp, as well as calling in. Really, really appreciate it. And this is why the show is here. It's for you guys, everyone that's watching, and hopefully, inshallah, that you're gaining so much information, so much knowledge as I am tonight. Brother Omar, we were talking about knowing yourself deeply, and you had some really important thoughts, which I want to pick up from when we left off last time. So what were they?
As I was saying, thank you so much. So as I was saying, it's very important that we know not just this artificial, what is your name, what is your status, what is your title, how many children do you have, what is your ethnicity, what is your race, these kinds of things. What is your favorite color, what is your favorite hobby? That is not knowing someone. Knowing someone is knowing their true self, the essence of who they are, a creation of Allah and a lover of Allah, and the true self, not the false self, not the mask. And these are psychology terms, so for those of you who are not aware, please forgive me. But even do some research, look it up, the true self and the false self. If you Google it, you'll find a lot of information. The true self is the self that is truly connected to Allah, who you are when you're not pretending to be someone else. That's who your spouse ends up finding. Your spouse will find out who you are when you take off all of the masks, when you stop the show and the pretend and, oh, I'm this scholar, I'm this, I'm that. No, you're a human being. You eat and you sleep and you fart and you do everything that other human beings do. You are a real human, not the presentation.
Do you not think that's a problem, though? Sorry to interrupt you, but you're saying something really important, and I love that. And I do study psychology myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But a lot of people, show their projected self only because that's what people want to see. And then that's when the problem starts, when they're actually showing their true self in a marriage. And then you realize, okay, this is not how it is. So how would you respond to that then?
Again, back to my earlier advice. If you keep your eyes open and you watch what they're doing, you will fall. And again, this means you need to get to know each other for a longer period of time. One of my cardinal mistakes was when I got married the first time, when I divorced, I got to know my spouse for 2 or 3 months, which was not enough time. I was inexperienced. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the signs. And I rushed. And When Fools Rush In, it's the name of a book or a movie or something, right? Don't do that. Get to know the person that you're getting to know. Get to know them.
How long would you recommend that you would need to get to know someone in a decent timeline, so that you would? Is there such a thing of knowing?
There's no timeline per se. It really depends on how well you know yourself, how well the other person knows themselves, and how well. There are too many variables to come up with a hard and fast rule. But what I would say is, I would advise that people get into a permissible relationship in the sense of being halal, with the ability to have deep-seated conversations and real life talk. You can talk and, oh, I like this, I want to go shopping, I want to watch this movie, and you're wasting your time. These are not the kinds of conversations to find your soulmate. These are not the kinds of conversations to understand the depths of who someone is. And no, it doesn't matter about their credit card balance or their bank account information or these kinds of things. If you want to know who you're getting yourself into, getting with, ask pertinent questions. Ask the questions that matter. Ask the questions that make a difference. Get to know.
What are some of those questions, Brother Omar? What are some of those questions that maybe you can share so that if someone is actually a little bit confused, they don't have the knowledge, they don't understand, what would be some of the questions that you think, which is not surface based, which is important to ask your potential spouse?
So I can say the first question is, what is their relationship with Allah and Islam? And it doesn't mean, have I memorized every book? Do I have a big beard? For example, does the woman wear the hijab? That's not there are some hijabi women who have crueler tongues than others, and there are some non-hijabi women who do not. So and the big beard, we call it the big beard syndrome. It's a guy with a big beard, and we think he's a religious person, and he's going out and going to bars and doing whatever, okay? So there's too many stories of this. We don't need to spend more time on that. It's not about the outside. It's all about the inside. Get to know the person. And the questions that are relevant are, what is their relationship with Allah? What is their relationship with themselves? What are their behaviors? What do they do consistently? Ask them to tell you, and then watch to verify. I'm not saying be suspicious, but there is a hadith that says that in a generation in which everyone is honest, it is a sin to be suspicious of your fellow believer. But in a generation in which everyone is deceptive, it is a sin to be naive and trusting. This is hadith. This is the wisdom that we've been given from our Prophet and our tradition. So we have to use these things. We cannot rush in blindly. Keep your eyes open. So again, getting to know, what is this person? What are their behaviors? What are their patterns? And what are your behaviors? And what are your patterns? Don't go looking at other people saying, oh, you got to change this, you got to change this. No, what about you, bro? You got to look in the mirror. You've got stuff you've got to work on, right? So be accepting of what is. I would personally advise looking for someone who is honest, truthful, because the commitment to truth is something that cannot be replaced with anything or substituted for anything higher than it. It is the greatest ideal. Allah, his name is Al-Haq, the truth. Sadiq, the honest. Sadiq al-Wa'd, honest in his promise. Allah is honest in his promise. Honesty, dedication to truth is the most important thing. After that, watch their behaviors, watch their patterns, watch how they speak. Watch how do they speak to the waiter in the restaurant. Watch how do they speak to the beggar in the street. It's easy to be nice to people that you want to impress and then derogatory to people who you feel are beneath you. These things show up. Keep your eyes open. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. In fact, everything that you've shared tonight has been absolute amazing insight. And I'm really, really glad that you came on tonight because it's so, so important. It's crucial information that a lot of Muslims are really lacking, knowing that marriage is there not just to, fulfill your connection and desires and not to just have those surface-based expectations, wants and needs, but to know yourself, to connect with your faith, and then that brings you closer to your spouse. So I think that's what you really relayed, and that's what my takeaway is. But we are going to ask you, obviously, more questions. So please, I can tell that you want to say, so carry on.
Yes,
what is it that...
Yes, there's one thing I wanted to mention and that I've been trying to mention all night, which is this idea that people have, I'm unhappy, she's unhappy. If we get together, we will be happy. Marriage doesn't work that way. I can't make you happy. You can't make me happy. The man can't make the woman happy. The woman can't make the man happy. Two people who are sad trying to make each other happy will make each other more miserable. The man has to be happy inside of himself because happiness, joy, connection to Allah, all of these things are a well that fulfill within. They do not get filled externally. They are only filled internally. And if you do not fulfill them internally by connecting with Allah, then you will try to fill them externally with status and a job title and a raise and children and a spouse, and you'll be miserable and everyone else will be miserable because they cannot fill you with happiness if you don't fill yourself from within. And the same thing with the woman. If she doesn't fill herself, she will be trying to have everybody else fill her for her, and she'll never find it, and then you'll have two miserable people. But marriage is blessed, and is not blessed, but best when you have, well, both, I suppose, is best when you have two people who are independently aware of themselves, aware of Allah, connected, and they love themselves. And then they come together to share that love with each other. That's the ideal. It is not about, I'm a broken person, you're a broken person, let's bring two broken people together and see if we can fix it. Or I'll fix him. There's many women and many men. I'll fix him. I kind of did that. Oh, I can help her. I know what she's struggling with. Maybe I can help her be better. If she doesn't help herself be better, you cannot help her be better until she decides. And we have a saying in social work. How many social workers does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb really has to want to change. If the light bulb doesn't want to change herself, you cannot change her. Don't give up. Don't try to fight that fight. My advice to you, get away from that fight. Don't try to change someone and fix someone who's, oh, he's so lovely. If he only saw this in himself, well, then we would get together. It would be perfect. No, run. If they're not fixing themselves, what are you doing trying to fix them? Take care of your issues, not theirs. Does that make sense?
That is so beneficial. I'm really glad you raised that, because a lot of people are looking to fulfill themselves in the other first, when actually you need to do it for yourself first. And that is really important advice and guidance. Actually, we are coming towards the end of the show, and I don't want to miss any opportunity for anything more that you have to say. So do you have some final words and thoughts for people that are struggling and having this challenge? What would you like to sort of say to them who is listening right now?
I guess my best advice would be find someone who you respect, who you trust, who has the knowledge and the wisdom that you're seeking, and follow them, work with them, talk with them, explore with them. There are oceans of knowledge and wisdom, but finding a credible source is incredibly difficult. I was blessed. My mother married one of the best men on earth, in my humble opinion. My stepfather has taught me much of what I know, and I continue to grow and learn. But find someone who understands and work with a teacher, work with a guide. Again, my title is Author, Poet, and Peaceful Heart's Guide. I guide people because I've been there. There's a saying of John Maxwell, one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. That is a leader. And that is what I've done. I've learned the way for myself and gotten myself out of my own disasters. And then I go the way myself, and then I help other people to show them the way. That's
how is it that anyone can get to you if they want to be in contact? What would you like to share tonight if someone wants to reach you so that you can help them further?
I would actually say a WhatsApp message would be the easiest, internationally especially. So do you want me to share my number, or it's +1, I suppose, +1 225 224 +1 225.
Just a social media handle will be fine. If you were to contact Brother Omar, I think it's best to find him on Instagram or Facebook. Are you on there,
Facebook.
Brother Omar?
Facebook would be better. Brother Omar L. Rashed on Facebook would probably be best.
Amazing. Thank you so much for tonight. I really appreciate your time. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure having Brother Omar tonight share so much with us. And inshallah, we will have another episode for you next week. But again, it doesn't happen without your support. And again, thank you so much for watching. And from everyone on British Muslim TV, a very, very good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.